Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. And today I want to visit the understanding that is at the heart of all these podcasts. And it's an understanding that is often talked about or described as the three principles. But what I've noticed over the years is that the three principles has come to mean at least three completely distinct and different things. And the value and impact of the three principles varies greatly depending on which of those three things you're talking about. So the way I came across the three principles was as a description of a field, a way of working with people, an approach to change. So I was a master trainer of neuro-linguistic programming, which was another field, another approach to change. I was certified in 9 different coaching modalities, each one of which was based on a different field, a different approach to change. So when I first came across the three principles, I thought, a new field. This will be fun to add to my collection of fields that I have some skills in and expertise at. But as a field, the three principles is subject to all the same limitations as any other field. As an approach, it's a pretty cool approach, but like any approach, it's not going to do the same thing for everyone that it approaches it. And it's going to be dependent in some ways on the skill and understanding of the practitioner or facilitator or teacher or whatever they're calling themselves who are doing it. So there is a field that is nominally called the three principles. It was at one time called neocognitive psychology. It was at one time called health realization. It was at one time called psychology of mind. But that field is not what I am talking about when I talk about the three principles. Now, a second thing that people mean when they talk about the three principles is a way to be in the world. And generally speaking, when somebody learns about the principles, and if you're going, what are the principles? Don't worry, I'm getting there. But this is one of the most common ways that people talk about it. They talk in terms of the behavioral implications of this understanding, and they're mostly making them up. And what I mean by that, and I'll use myself as the example, is when I was first learning about this, I thought, okay, so this is an understanding of where our feelings come from and emotions come from and how we work psychologically and the innate health and well-being that we are underneath the noise of our thinking. So if I really understand the principles, I'll take everything in my stride. I'll be really chill. I'll be really zen. And literally the first 4 days that I went to study the three principles happened to be the weekend that the New England Patriots, which anyone who knows me know I care way too much about, was the year that they had gone undefeated to the Super Bowl and were playing the New York Giants. And the game was happening the weekend that I was up learning about the three principles. And you may not remember that game. I remember every play. But in the last 2 minutes of the game, my beloved Patriots lost. And I was devastated, but thought that I shouldn't be because I was learning about the three principles. So I was, really kind of trying to be cool around all the experts on the three principles who were there watching the game with me, but really wasn't cool, but was really trying to be really cool. And I came into the office the next morning, and one of the other facilitators, somebody who'd been in the understanding for like 25 years, looked like she'd been run over by a truck. And I asked somebody, is she okay? And they went, oh yeah, she's just upset about the game. And I was like, you can understand this and still be upset about stuff? And I think probably the only person who was more relieved by that than me was my wife, who when I first told her what I was learning about, this new field called the three principles, this new understanding of human psychology and spirituality and the interplay between them, her response was, oh great, another excuse for you to not feel your feelings. And in a way, she had a point, because that was kind of at the time, I was so scared of feeling because I thought feelings could get me. Because I had suffered from depression and thought if I wasn't careful, I was only 2 weeks away from slipping back into the darkness. So she had a point. We were both surprised that one of the actual changes in how I started showing up in the world was that I was willing to feel more because I was no longer afraid of feeling, because I now understood where feeling came from. And this points to the third understanding that is talked about as the three principles, which are three simple facts of life, of how life works, of how human beings work, of how human experience is created. And the first fact is that there is an alive intelligence, an animating force in the universe. Now, we can call it anything we want. We can call it the Tao. We can call it the Way, which is just English for the Tao, really. We can call it God. We can call it all that is. We can call it the oneness. We can call it the quantum field. But there is a living intelligence, a spirit. Spirit being a word that means breath, an invisible force behind life. In the field, the three principles, that force is described as mind, or divine mind, or universal mind. And it is just a way of describing, of pointing to this living intelligence, this force that animates us. That if you've ever been around something that's dead, you can tell the difference between something that's alive and something that's dead, even if they're not moving. That is that living intelligence. Second principle, consciousness, the awareness of life, the awareness of experience. That simply exists before any of us come into the world. It is there, and we are able to make use of it. Without consciousness, we'd have no way of experiencing life. There'd be nothing to inform our senses. And a third principle, a third force, a third pre-existing element. Thought. But not thought like the cognitive things you say to yourself in your mind and the pictures that you make, and that's how this invisible energy, this invisible power of thought appears in our minds. But thought is the creative force. So there is a living intelligence and aliveness. There is a capacity to experience, and there is a creative force that takes things from this vast, unknowable nothingness at the heart of the universe, like the 99% of every atom that is empty, from which all things come. And it is, in my experience, when people start to see those facts of life for themselves, it does lead to a change in the way they are in the world. But it's not necessarily the change. In other words, trying to act the way you think somebody who understood this would act is like trying to wag your dog by its tail. It doesn't mean the dog is happy, and you might get bit. But when you simply rest in the simplicity of this, things do change. And one of the most beautiful articulations of this third understanding of the three principles is from one of my colleagues, Jack Pransky. And he wrote in his book, Seduced by Consciousness, the three principles are not a way of seeing the world. They are the way the world works, no matter how one sees the world. The three principles are not a way of being. They are the way we are, the way we function as human beings, no matter how we are being. The three principles are not a prescription. They are a description, plain and simple. And if this is something that is of interest to you, I encourage you to explore the field if you're interested in the field. You can play with some of the implications of these three spiritual facts if you're inclined that way. But the more you look to the truth before the articulation, to the fact that we are alive, the fact that we are aware, the fact that we are think, the more people seem to settle down and fill up with deep feeling and live effectively and powerfully in the world. Have fun, learn heaps, happy exploring, and I'll talk with you soon.